So my last thing was the island on there. So you shared a widget with me that I hadn't been using, the with the sports alert, and I've been using that more, and I love it. I love how it shows up on the little island, and of course the music apps and stuff like that. But are you getting any use out of that other than that, or do you feel like me, like this is going to be Apple's what was it, the touch we were talking about, the peek and
The-
pop feature.
Yeah, the 3D
After a
touch.
couple of years, the 3D touch, is this going to be Apple's 3D touch where nobody's going to start developing for it? It's just not going to catch on, other than a few apps that we have now.
Well, I think so. It's two technologies, right? It's the hardware, which is the dynamic island, and then the software
Hmm.
behind it, which is live activities and some of the notifications and stuff like that.
Right, right.
I love the dynamic island, and I'm hoping that now that they expanded it to all of the 15 models, right? So every new phone now has the dynamic island, that more developers
Right.
will jump in and do this.
And
Now
not
the
just the
reason,
pro.
yeah, I mean, now one of the reasons Jason and I are talking about that sports alerts app is because ESPN is not doing live activities.
Right,
Why?
right.
Right? I already have my ESPN app and my account with ESPN, because it's Disney, set up exactly the way I want it. All the right
Hmm.
alerts, all my favorite teams, all of that kind of stuff. And I'm getting absolutely silence on the MLBN because the Yankees didn't make the playoffs, which was a tragedy. But so we're trying that sports alerts. But I wrote this in the iOS 17 blog post that I kind of want something in that black pill all the time,
Hmm.
right? And
Right.
I'm going to use this example, and people can tell me that, well, you could have that in the on the lock screen in a um, in a widget.
Yes.
I kind of would like the current conditions, some sort of an icon of the current weather conditions to always show up in
Right,
that dynamic island. And to
right.
maybe be able to just tap on it, which is something I think they need to switch. If you tap, it opens the app. If you long press in the dynamic island, it pulls up more information. I think it should be the opposite personally.
Right.
Um, but there's even Apple's weather app doesn't support live activities. Really? Apple?
Yes.
Weather app doesn't support live activities. Now there are a couple of them out there. One of them I looked at actually yesterday was called Weather Live, but the problem is it waits for a storm. And then when the storm hits, you can go in and start the live activity then, and then have it
Yeah.
tracked, and it'll show up in the dynamic island or on your lock screen or any of that kind of stuff. But that's not what I want. I would sacrifice a little bit of battery life for Apple to put weather stuff in that dynamic island all the time, and for me to be able to press on it, expand it out, right?
Hmm.
And give me the real time alerts, but just give me the general alerts. I mean, think about how much of your home screen is taken up by weather information and your widgets and
Right,
stuff, right? Because you want to know the temperature, you want to know if it's going to rain, all of this other stuff because you work outside a lot. So
right,
I love it. I want more out of it, right? I want it to
right,
be
right.
more taken advantage
So
of a lot better.
sort of like the complications
Yeah.
on the watch, so we can should have some dynamic island complications that we can put and get receive information that we want to receive, no matter what state the screen is in.
Yeah. I would love that, right? I mean, if I'm back to using the modular ultra watch face because I just,
Right? I went back to
yeah.
Snoopy this week.
Did you? Yeah, well, that's great. But I mean, if I could see some of that information just in that dynamic island and that kind of stuff, again, I know
Yeah,
you can see it on the lock screen, but like right now, I'm looking at a photo in standby mode. So there's none of that information on my screen. If
right.
there was just a little icon that told me it was hot or cold or whatever outside, I don't, there's a million uses for this stuff. I just don't think enough developers took advantage of it and there wasn't enough pressure. And maybe now there will be with the
Right.
15s all having it.
So, but yeah, so that was all I had. I thought in the article you just kind of glanced over what was a big deal for me. Well, what I was most curious about your experience, for me, and you just kind of glanced by it. And, I watched the movie. It was good. I like the big screen. I don't know. I need more details.
Yeah.
So
No, I mean
I
that
wanted to talk about that.
I put that in there. Fallen Kingdom. I just happened to put on, the scene in Fallen Kingdom when they're pulling off the island and the big brontosaurus or whatever it is got the cloud that overshadows it because
Yeah,
the
the
lava's
smoke is
coming
coming.
down.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I had that scene on and I'm just like, holy cow, the quality of that picture. And I had the new AirPods in and the sound, and I'm just going, oh my goodness. So honestly, if
Right,
Apple's Vision Pro can do that on 80 inches in my living room,
right,
it will take events for me to go back to the theater, right? I mean, it'll have to be these big social events, or of course, I'm not going to have 3 or 4 of these in my home. So if we wanted to all go watch a movie as a family, but that's,
right.
you're right. I probably should have done a little more on that. So
Yeah, yeah. No, no, really big deal. But I'm glad you got to explain it on the show.